gorgeous peeps. This is take two, take one. I don't know what happened. Well, I do know. Our internet is a bit dodgy for 2 weeks, they said. It's strange. Nobody told us, and then it was going so terribly that I rang, well, texted Telstra, and they said, "Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, we're doing works, and it's 2 weeks." And I'm thinking, oh, awesome for kids working from home and people working from home, and doctors doing Facebook Lives in the morning. But anyway, tomorrow it's meant to be all fixed. So hopefully it'll stay good for the next 5 minutes. So yesterday we started talking about the concept of metacognition. Now, we are doing mindset management for our 12-week spring rebooters. And honestly, in order to make any long-term lifestyle changes of any sort, it's all about what goes on up here. And yes, there certainly nutrition is really important and understanding what you're doing is really important. But then the key is not just understanding it, it's implementing it. And honestly, that seems to be the sticking point for lots of people. And I get it. It can be really hard at times. But it's all about what's going on in your head. So we need to have some systems to be able to understand what is our brain saying to us? What are our thoughts? And this is something that we're not really taught. Like, no, we don't have thought lessons in school. We don't learn a lot about this thing. So it's really interesting to understand our brain. So our brain is a thought machine. That's its job. Its job is to think. Just like our heart's job is to beat and pump blood, our brain's job is to have thoughts. It has other jobs as well. It sends signals down to our body to do, move your arm, whatnot. But a lot of its job is to think. And the thought is just a connection between two neurons. And I am sort of saying again what I said yesterday, but I think it's really important to understand that when we have a thought, if we have it once, then it's not that permanent. If you have it a couple of times, it becomes more permanent. If you have it 10,000 times, it's pretty permanent. So they're just patterns between two neurons. And the thing about these patterns or these pathways is that they're not always right. And that's the hardest bit to get your head around. You're thinking, but I've always thought that. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because one thing that is often not right is our thoughts about ourselves. And you're thinking, but surely they're right. I know myself. I've lived with myself for, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever many years. But this is the thing, is that quite often the thoughts are not right. Oh, it's so hard to get your head around that idea. But if we think, and I guess to use an analogy, right? I love them. I love them. So as a child, you think Santa is true. You absolutely believe it with all your heart. And no wonder you are told he's true. It's real. All of these things. And the magical part of Christmas, it's so beautiful for children. And everyone around participates in this magical belief. And if you ask a 5-year-old, they will swear black and blue that Santa is real. And if you ask a 15-year-old, they will swear black and blue that he's not. Because over time, what happens is that our beliefs, we start to challenge them. We start to have other people coming in our ear and going, I don't think that's quite true. And because, again, it's this worldwide belief that children believe in Santa, Father Christmas, whatever term you use, everybody perpetuates that. And then there comes a time where we as a global community decide that it's actually not appropriate to be believing in this mystical creature anymore. And so we dismantle this myth. It's actually quite systemic, the dismantling. And in fact, if we had a person who was, say, I don't know, 16 and truly believed in Santa, we would think that that's actually weird, that there's something wrong with them, that so it's an age appropriate belief. Can you see the difference though? Again, absolutely. As a 5-year-old, completely believe in it, completely true, that thought in our brain, Santa is true. And then systemically, society unpacks that myth, starts bringing in some doubt, bringing in some things that challenge this belief, and then globally, we no longer believe. That doesn't happen with most of our other thoughts, though. Most of our other thoughts stay with us, whether they started in childhood, and a lot of them do, or later on. I'm going to give you a lovely example. It's not that lovely, actually, but a true example, I guess, is what I'm thinking. And this happens for a lot of people. A lot of people come and they talk to me about how they don't feel that they're good enough, as an example. And I say to them, what are the words in your head? What can you hear? You're useless is one of their big things. You don't finish anything. You're useless. Stop being so hopeless. That's the talk. And when we unpack that, sometimes that comes from their childhood. It may be a particularly critical parent that says this. So, as just like when the Santa formation occurs, 5, 6, 7, they're hearing this, they believe it, it's true, an adult is telling them, but nobody dismantles that for them. So by the time they're 15, nobody has said to you, by the way, all that stuff, that wasn't true. And so you keep believing it. Okay, so this is a really interesting concept, and it's really important to be able to start dismantling some of the myths about ourselves that we formed in childhood. It may even be it may be teenage years. It can be lots of things, but it's a myth. And learning to recognize these, it's hard and it can be complicated, but so vital. My lovelies, I better get to work because I'll be late and I don't like being late. But I hope you have a wonderful day. Think about your myths that are in your mind and work out dismantling them. You have to do it yourself because no society is going to do it for you. Interestingly, there are movements coming, of course. There's self-love, body positive movements, really important. But start with yourself. Have a wonderful day, my loves. See you soon.